So we're about to get into this video of the 10 most beautiful WNBA players, and before we do, I just wanted to say two things real quick. That this is the official list, so any other lists, no, I'm just kidding. In all seriousness though, this list was extremely hard to make, extremely tough. And I think that you can kind of flip-flop some of the women in like different places, but I've been watching enough at WNBA to know enough players. I know there's a lot of people out there that can only tell you like 3 or 4 players. I can tell you a good amount, so I was able to make this list. And so I'd love to know in the comments below at the end of this video what your list would be, or if you agree, disagree, I'd like to hear from you. So the toughest thing about this list was that not everyone can make the top 10. There could only be 10 women on this list, so naturally some aren't going to be included. So that's where this gets really tough. But so before we begin, I wanted to give a shout out to Nefisa Collier, who I think is arguably the best player in the league. You got Asia Wilson, but Nefisa Collier is like easily number 2. Great defensive player. She models her game around Kobe. You know, I follow her IG. I'm a big fan of her. You know, she's got her young family and everything going on. Very excited to see what she's going to do in the future. But let's go ahead and get into the list. So Nefisa Collier would be like my 11 on this list, and ironically her teammate Alana Smith would be number 10. So like I said, these numbers could be flip-flopped everywhere, like, you know, whichever way you want to do it. But I did the best in my ability to create a top 10, but you know, beauty is very subjective and it's just very hard to quantify it. But Alana Smith, I think she's gorgeous, and she's, you know, an Australian player. She's a key part of that Minnesota Lynx team. At number 9, it shouldn't be a surprise that Caitlyn Clark's on the list. I mean, she's very pretty. You know, she's a fierce competitor. I thought about not even spelling her name on there because like, everyone knows who she is, but some people have a hard time spelling her name for whatever reason, so I just wanted to make sure people know how to spell her name. It's spelled like that, Caitlyn Clark. But top, I would 100% say top 20 player in the league. I mean, she's really good. I would have said higher, but like, it's when you start watching the games, like I start watching the full games and start watching a lot of different players, like you realize that this league is very competitive. So definitely somewhere in the top 20 as far as players, but definitely top 10 in looks. So number 8 on this list will be Rebecca Allen, and she actually plays for the Chicago Sky, but I first noticed her on the Phoenix Mercury team when I was kind of paying attention to, you know, Diana Taurasi in her final year, and, you know, watching Brittany Griner and some of those other players on that team really grind it out. So no pun intended, I just said that, I guess. But yeah, Rebecca Allen, she's an Australian player. Very pretty. You know, she stuck out to me, and I was like, wait, who is that girl? Because I heard her speaking in this, you know, accent. I was like, wait, she's got to be from Australia, and she is. So, you know, Rebecca Allen deserves a spot on this list as number 8. At number 7 is Paige Beckers, and, you know, she's gorgeous. Very humbled personality. You know, I love watching her. She's actually my favorite player, to be honest. And the thing about Paige Beckers is she actually surprised me. I actually knew she was going to be good, but I didn't expect her to deal with the physicality of the league this early on, because I saw how Caitlyn kind of struggled with it. So she's a surprising player. I think she's a shoo-in rookie of the year. Great player. Like I've been very impressed by her. Like she plays defense. She plays, you know, she can shoot the 3 very well. She's good inside game. I've been very impressed with her, and I had high expectations, but she's better than I expected. You know, the Dallas, you know, they're not the best team, obviously. There's a reason why they're picking number 1, but you know, she's definitely the shining point on that Dallas Wings team. Number 6 will be Skyler Diggins Smith. Skyler Diggins Smith is from the Seattle Storm, and I first watched her. She, you know, like a lot of people, you know, I first watched her when the Fever played the the Storm. I admit it. You know, Caitlyn Clark is the reason why a lot of people started, but I started learning about a lot of these other players because of them, and now I'll watch Seattle games. I'll watch like different games where the Fever aren't even playing in. You know what I mean? So there's certain players that I just start to watch, and Skyler is one of them. I think she's a baller. I think she's a great player, also great looking. So definitely someone to look out for if you see. You know, if you're just watching the Fever, cool. You know, pay attention to the Fever Storm games, because I believe those will be entertaining. At number 5, Sophie Cunningham. So Sophie Cunningham, I first noticed she was playing for the Phoenix Mercury, so I actually knew about her a little bit before a lot of people seem to have known her, because people mostly pay attention to the Fever games, and of course now she's an Indiana Fever player. So it should be no surprise that she's on the list. I remember she jumped out at me when I was watching the Phoenix for other reasons, for other players, but then she stuck out and I was like, who is that yet? She was looking good. So Sophie Cunningham is on the list of number 5 on the list of the most beautiful WNBA players. At number 4, should be no surprise that Cameron Brink is on the list. Cameron Brink plays for the LA Sparks, and she's had a few injuries, unfortunately, but she's a great player on that LA Sparks team. She's second year in the league, so I look forward to watching some more of her play. But she is certainly one of the best looking women in the league. And so I look forward to seeing more of her play. Hopefully she can stay healthy, and we'll see what happens. But Cameron Brink, I know she has some association with Steph Curry, and she's pretty well known by a lot of NBA players as well. So I'm excited to see what she does in the future. I already know this next one's going to get me in big trouble, but Angel Reese at number 3. I already know people are going to be like, what are you talking about? Oh, she's terrible. Oh, man, we hate her, so she's bad. We hate her, so she's ugly. Okay, well, can we be objective for just a second? Can we finally be objective for a second? I know that's really hard to do, especially for us Americans, it seems like, but let's be objective. I mean, if you look at Angel Reese, she's gorgeous, Now, she might have this attitude thing, but Caitlyn Clark has attitude as well. Caitlyn Clark, she talks her trash. It's the same story. I've watched the full games, not just the highlights, so I see that some of these women aren't as humble as you think. And Angel Reese certainly is. I would not classify her as humble, but she's beautiful. And she's someone that I started paying attention to because she started leading the league in offensive rebounds, and some people say, oh, it's because of her own misses, but no. Literally, she led the league in rebounds. She led the whole league in rebounds, and it was a lot more. If you take out just the offensive rebounds off of her misses, she still led the league in offensive rebounds. So, and she would have been number 1 all time if it wasn't for her injury. It ended up being all time in the season. I'm sorry, but it ended up being A'ja Wilson coming in and taking over. A'ja Wilson, obviously, best player in the league, so that's not a surprise. But Angel Reese to do this on her first year, and you have to keep in mind too that people don't give her a lot of credit because her game isn't really casual friendly. Like Caitlyn Clark, anyone could see someone shoot a 3 and recognize it as a big play, but it's hard to contextualize a block, and it's hard to contextualize offensive rebounds. The casual fan doesn't really recognize the rebound as something as exciting, but Angel does all the dirty work. So I don't know, I give her a lot of credit. I think she's a great player. She proved me wrong. Honestly, I thought she got drafted because of the whole Caitlyn Clark feed, but clearly I was wrong about her. I give her a lot of credit, and also she's gorgeous. Coming in at number 2 would be Lexi Hull. That should be no surprise as well. She's gorgeous. She's someone that had to take a back seat when Caitlyn Clark came into the league. She had to, sit on the bench for a little while, but they finally found a role for her last year, and I think she's the most underrated player in the WNBA, at least from what I see. There might be some other players that I don't realize, but Lexi Hull is... She is in the limelight, so it's easier to say that she's the But there's plenty of other players, I'm sure, that are more underrated, and but Lexi Hull, she's the Klay Thompson because a lot of people say that Caitlyn Clark is the Steph Curry of the WNBA, and I agree. She plays very similar as far as the passing ability is incredible. Caitlyn Clark is probably the best, or at least one of the best passers in the WNBA. I think that's pretty clear. But when it comes to 3-point shooting, she has the range like Steph Curry. She's not as consistent as Steph Curry, but she has the range. And then if you look at Lexi Hull is like a Klay Thompson to the Steph Curry. You know what I mean? She's more consistent from 3, but she's not. I wouldn't say she's a better shooter than Caitlyn Clark, though you can argue. But I would say that Lexi Hull is. It's kind of tough, but Lexi Hull is she's more of a spot up shooter, and she's consistent with it, so she's gonna have a higher percentage. But Caitlyn Clark can shoot anywhere, anytime. So it's like you can't really say she's. I don't know. I feel like she's just as good, as a shooter, and she, plays great defense. She's very good. She applies the pressure, so I don't think she's far off from Caitlyn. If that's, let me know in the comments below if I'm out of line for saying that. But I honestly don't think she's that far off as far as like a player. She contributes in different ways than Caitlyn, so the game is going to be different. But I think she's a great underrated player, and I think you saw them win the Commissioner Cup without Caitlyn Clark, and it's because of partly because of her role. I mean, she's really good. I think she's underrated. So that team that they have in Indiana, you got Aaliyah Boston, you got Kelsey Mitchell, and then you got Lexi Hull. They're just like a great team together, like a really great team. They have really good chemistry, and they're coached by the best coach in the WNBA, and Stephanie White. So they have a great thing going on. But Lexi Hull is a key part of that team, clearly. And number 1 was pretty easy, Kaiser Ray. I think that one was pretty obvious. As tough as this list was to make, number 1 was pretty clear from the beginning. But unfortunately, I don't have a lot to say about her on the court. Unfortunately, I don't know about her on the court as much, but off the court, she tears it up. She's fine. She's easily the best looking player in the WNBA. But as far as her gameplay, like I know she was on the Chicago Sky for a little while. She was friends with Angel Reese. They lit up the pregame, pretty well. But during the game, I don't really know too much about her, honestly. It'd be nice to see her play again, but she is still in the WNBA. She is a free agent, so hopefully we'll see her back at some point. But she easily tops this list, as the number 1 most beautiful WNBA player. And that leads to the conclusion of this video. I'd love to know if I left anybody out. If I guess I put her in the center there, so maybe I made it kind of obvious. I don't know, but I would love to know if I left anybody out. Please let me know. Please let me know. Please embarrass me. Let me know that I missed someone. I do have like pretty good knowledge. I am a fan of the WNBA, so I was able to list quite a bit of players. So this list was not that hard for me to put together. But definitely let me know if I missed anyone. How would you do your list? Would you put someone else at number 2 or 3, or someone else in the list that wasn't on the list or whatever? Let me know how you would do your list. I would love to hear from you. But anyway, thanks for tuning in, guys. Catch you guys in the next video, and peace.